if you watch the first 3 episodes of Transformers, More Than Meets the Eye is what they're called, episodes 1 through 3, you'll notice a couple things that they changed. One, the Autobots were able to fly, and two, the whole underlining of the show was about energy conservation, about the about something that we as humans take for granted, you know, that we think we have unlimited resources for energy, and we actually don't. You know, it takes these giant robots to show us that our sources are very limited and very precious, and if we don't find ways to keep them in check, we're gonna end up like this, you know, fighting for energy, like kind of like what we did with the wars that occurred in the Middle East. You know, I mean, a lot of people hate to say that they want to believe that it's about terrorism. It is, but remember, those areas control oil, which is our main source of fuel. And if we're ever short on fuel, we ever run short on energy, God forbid that happens anytime soon, but if it does, imagine the horrors of war. And this is just a game. And look how well illustrated this game is, and you know how just all the chaos and everything that's going around. Imagine this happening in real life. I mean, obviously with people and not giant robots. Something like this could very well happen. Now, I hate to sound too preachy on this, but that's what the cartoon meant to me when I first saw it. And I was just a kid. This came out in 1984. Now, speaking of 1984, let's go back even further. Let's talk about the toys for a second. The toys were known as the Micromen, or they were created by Takara. Optimus was known as Convoy, and if you had the original Optimus Prime or Convoy, you'll notice that the front opened and that there was 2 seats inside. The reason for that was that in Japan, the toys actually had they didn't have their own personalities or anything like that. They had people inside the robots controlling them. Those people had the personalities. The robots really didn't do anything. Of course, as time progressed, they dropped this idea in favor for the robots themselves having their own personalities, feelings, emotions, and what have you. And that made for a much better story. Made for much better characterization instead of just, you know, humans and whatnot. So, yeah, so as you can see the background, we just have this Metroplex. He's got this big ass hand just running everybody down and stuff. And it's so cool to look at. The transformations I thought are still really awesome. They if you listen very close, it has that clink clink like sound that that's kind of traditional since the original Transformers episodes from the 80s. As time progressed, they sound more like you can hear more of gears and servos and everything, you know, in a way that does provide a much more realistic transformation sound. But at the same time, they had to keep that original sound effect. It just sounds so awesome. I don't know where that came from or who designed that, but whoever did, you know, needs to take a bow at this time because they really created a very iconic sound. And now, the funny thing about transformation sounds was the closest to realistic transformation sound effects were not the Transformers at first. They were the GoBots, and GoBots had like servos, you know, but unfortunately they were like single servos moving at once, and but it worked. It worked for them, and it had a distinct sound from that in the Transformers. And for all those who want to know, GoBots did come out first. I believe they came out first in 1982 by Tonka, before Takara came onto the scene and brought Transformers over to the United States. And for all those who don't know, I just want to touch one more thing on Optimus Prime. Optimus Prime, the name was he got his name from Denny O'Neil, who was one of the writers for Batman Nightfall. For all those who don't know what Batman Nightfall is, don't worry, you probably have already seen the Dark Knight Rises, and The Dark Knight Rises touches a lot on Nightfall. Unfortunately, there is no Jean Paul Valley in that one, or there's no Night Quest Batman, which would have been so awesome to see. That was one of the outfits I really wanted to see in film. But I'm kind of veering off the subject here. I just want to say Dennis O'Neil is obviously a genius for just naming him. I mean, Optimus Prime just sounds the name itself sounds epic. And when people hear it these days, they relate that name to the name of a hero. Optimus Prime truly is a hero. When he died in Transformers the movie, for those who don't know, in the 1986 film, what happened was Hasbro was bringing in their new toy lines, and they also had a new leader, Rodimus Prime, who was going to lead these Autobots into the third season. To do this, unfortunately, they had to kill off the entire first season toy line, which was a big mistake. There was a lot of great robots there. I mean, a lot of robots personalities whom we connected with, we as the viewers. We loved guys like Mirage, Sunstreaker, Hound. One of my personal favorite Autobots was Wheeljack, and they ended up killing them all. And one of the guys they ended up killing was, of course, part of the first storyline was, of course, Optimus Prime. It had probably the greatest fight ever on film. Even though it was animated, it was probably the greatest fight. Most meant a lot for me because it was truly the battle between good and evil. Things weren't the areas between good and evil back in the day was more black and white. There was hardly any gray areas. They did touch up on the gray areas, of course, later on in season 3 when Blitzwing decided to go against the Decepticons and help the Autobots fight the Quintessons because, well, for the simple fact that the Quintessons were the main enemies, and the Decepticons became more of a gray area in the third season. I mean, and of course saying that Galvatron was not just evil anymore; he was just crazy. That he did lose his mind because of the plasma bath that he got from being thrown into that area by Rodimus Prime in Transformers the movie. Now, these Decepticons right here, they did not ever show up. These are just like drones or whatnot, heavy drones. And of course, if they were able to kill Optimus Prime easily, then I guess they should be the leaders of the Decepticons and not Megatron, because Megatron has failed so many times. And even in the movie, that famous iconic fight scene, Optimus Prime did defeat Megatron. Unfortunately, Optimus died, and that really touched a lot of people, a lot of children. How do you kill a hero? But anyway, there was a lot of letters that came back after Optimus died, and there, people were just like, you can't kill this guy, you can't do this, countless letters from parents, and just countless. It was just amazing how many letters were sent out from children. And actually, I think there was an incident where a child he locked himself in his room and said he wasn't going to come out until they brought Optimus back to life. Hopefully the mom did persuade him out of that, because he did come back in season 3 before the return of Optimus Prime. He came back as a zombie, and he was rebuilt he wasn't rebuilt. He was kind of revived partially by the Quintessons in order to trick the Autobots into a trap. Once Optimus got the Matrix back from Rodimus, the Matrix kind of guided Optimus and brought his conscience back long enough to tell the Autobots, hey, this is a trap, get out of here, whatnot. Now, during season 3, that was it. That was going to be the end of Optimus Prime for good. And because of all the letters and everything, all the outcry from the parents and, of course, the children, they decided to revisit that episode. And after that episode, they continued that into the Return of Optimus Prime, where I believe it was Dr. Morgan. That was her name. A doctor, and the other guy, I think Gregory, was the friend of the scientist. They were testing out this new alloy that was impervious to heat and just pretty much impenetrable type of armor, and they were using it to test out on a supernova. As they were doing that, they found Optimus Prime's body and brought it back. They brought it back with them. Unfortunately, once the star went nova, the sun went nova, it released a type of spore that caused what was known as the hate plague, and it was that hate plague had a spread throughout the galaxy. Humans, Transformers, everything, and Rodimus thought to himself, the only being who was intelligent enough and brave enough and strong enough to find a way to stop this madness was Optimus Prime. So his last request before he became infected was to have Optimus Prime revived by Quintesson. And of course, for all those who have seen this, I know this is kind of a recap, but for those who didn't see that, Optimus Prime did come back, and he was coated with the special armor that allowed him to reclaim the Matrix from Rodimus Prime, who was infected, making that the armor pretty much was immune. It made him immune to the plague. Optimus used the power of the Matrix to use knowledge. Basically, madness can only be combated and defeated by knowledge, which is pretty much a metaphor with everything with our society. Pretty much the only way to combat madness is with real knowledge. Anyway, that is the cartoon. Now, in the comic book, his death was met a couple times. I don't know. I think it was just kind of an ongoing prank or something. Just, Optimus comes back for a little bit, we gotta kill him again, He's such an influential character, such an important character. Killing him off, But after killing him off in the movie, it wasn't as taboo in the comic book series, I guess. Now, his first death was in virtual reality. They had he fought Megatron or something in virtual reality. I gotta go back and read it, but after and it was in the issue entitled "Game Over Optimus Prime." So anyway, he died virtually, then his body exploded. What happened was there was a game designer or something. What he did was he actually recorded Optimus Prime's memories and brain and everything onto a floppy disk. Yes, I said it was a floppy disk. So I guess Optimus Prime's memory or all that intelligence or everything that he's got is, it only takes 1.5 megabytes to power that brain of his. Who knew, Anyway, when he came back, it was weird when he came back. I guess he thought he was a video game the whole time, and so the video game maker was making countless video games and whatnot as Optimus, and making Optimus Prime the the main character, the protagonist that you would use in the game. And once the Autobots found out about that, they went ahead and they figured, hey, their leader's back, and from there they designed Optimus Prime. That they created Optimus Prime's Power Master look, which is my personal favorite incarnation of Optimus Prime. And once they completed that armor, they went ahead and they downloaded Optimus Prime's 1.5 megabyte memory into this super robot. I just can't get over how funny that is. But hey, it was the 80s back then. CD-ROM wasn't created. You got to go with what you know, right? So let's not knock the 80s too much on that one. Optimus Prime, unfortunately, he was back for a while, of course, a few issues. I believe it was issue 70 or issue 74 or something like that. It was when Optimus Prime died again. He died this time using the Matrix to destroy Unicron. That's right. Rodimus didn't do it in the comic books. Optimus did. And unfortunately, it caused Unicron to explode, and Optimus being the center of the explosion, well, he wasn't going to survive that. So that's how he dies in that one. Now, issue 80, the very last issue of the very last issue of the Marvel Comics Transformers, which again I just gotta point out was even said on the top. It was issue 8. It was 80 of a 4-issue limited series. They put that on the top, just reminding people, hey, this wasn't even supposed to be longer than 4 issues, but it turned out to be 80 issues, which is again a milestone in comic books, and just showing how much support that the fan, or how much fan support for the Transformers that people had for it. If I worded that right, if I worded that wrong, excuse me. Now, in that issue, Optimus Prime comes back, but he's merged with Haikyuu. They find what they call the first Autobot. That's what they call him. And the first Autobot pretty much united Haikyuu and combined him with remnants of Optimus Prime or something like that, and he became Action Master Optimus Prime, and he was no longer capable of transforming. This was, of course, to promote the toy line for the Action Masters, which I think was a bad idea for Hasbro to do. I think they did that because it was the only way they can get the cartoon versions of the Transformers with the toys. And it looks good. I mean, the Action Masters look good in their own right, but the only bad thing is they do not transform. They came with transformable buddies, or transformable weapons and transformable tanks and whatnot, but at the same time, they themselves were not transformable, so it kind of defeats the purpose of them being Transformers. Anyway, that's how Optimus Prime comes back in issue 80, and he does come back in Transformers Generation 2, but we don't talk about that kind of thing around here. Let's see. And as I've been talking, you've been seeing what's been going on here, just and it looks like I've already destroyed 2 of these generators and whatnot. Died a couple times along the way, but you know, hey, you can't make an omelet without breaking some eggs, right? So this is the color and everything just looks incredible. But I just want to point out, when you see up front, when you get close-ups of all these the CG models here, you can see a lot of I don't know, kind of a degrading, almost a 128-bit style look to them, and that could be because there's just so much going on. There's just, you know, there's only so much that the hardware now can handle, and it looks like that this game itself, the design for it surpassed the hardware, and it's probably a game like this is probably much more appreciated and with the PC optimization. So for all those who have a PC out there, you guys are probably really digging this game a lot more than on the console. But as a console gamer, this is something I grew up with. I've used controllers all my life, even back in the day when I had the color computer too. I used the joystick. I did not use the keyboard and mouse. This was way back in the 80s. Mice weren't even really. There wasn't even an OS yet, really. It was just like you type everything in. With that being in mind, the only game I played on there was Space Assault, and that required a joystick. I could not use the keyboard at all. And here's Warpath again. In the cartoon season 2, and they really try to match the scale of the toys. Warpath was he was one of the mini Autobots. I don't want to say mini bots because they did have mini bots and mini cons. Yeah, so Warpath was obviously, they're trying to make it a little bit more politically correct, because him being a tank, obviously he'd be a lot bigger than Optimus Prime. And this one, Optimus Prime, kind of looks like a mini cabs type truck. It still looks like a truck. Doesn't look like doesn't look like it would be for any heavy hauling or anything like that. I love this 3-burst shot right here. This really reminds me of the M16 from Call of Duty, especially with this ACOG looking scope that's put to it, and just really it really helps me out because it makes me feel more at home, because I am more accustomed to first-person shooters than I am third-person. Although I am really digging this. The multiplayer in this game is awesome. Recently got the Dinobots, the Dinobots in multiplayer. They had DLC. I don't want to call it DLC. Actually, it's more of an unlock code, an unlockable thing that you have to pay for, and it's only worth it. I gotta stress that out. It is only worth it if you love the Dinobots and love Transformers and whatnot. You just gotta have that in your game. But for those who think that it would be essential to them to have something that would be a little bit more overpowered, you're gravely mistaken. They're pretty much, it's pretty much the skins. That's all you'd be paid for, is just the skins and the transformation. I mean, it does nothing beneficial at all. So for that, if you have that in mind, if you want something to help out your game, it's definitely not the DLC or unlock to get. I would definitely, if you were going to invest money in any type of DLC for the multiplayer, I think it should be on a weapons pack. Some more weapons, or perhaps if you don't have time to do the grind like every other multiplayer guy tries to do, if you don't have time to legitimately do the grind for all the weapons and all the perks and everything, then upgrade kits should be made available. They did have those for they do have those for, I believe, Battlefield. They were made famous by Battlefield, and I think they should also be done for Call of Duty for those who don't wish to unlock, who don't have the time to unlock all the weapons and whatnot. I think they should just say, okay, I should pay $10 and just get all the weapons at once, everything I need for this class or whatnot. That to me would be helpful. But again, paying for extra skins, I think that should just be an unlockable for those who had an award for all those who did take the time to do all the grinding for those. It's got to be something rewarding. It's got to keep the people playing. To me, that's not really keeping anybody playing. I think it's kind of a ripoff for the fans and those who actually purchase the game for the full $59.95, which to me is still an outrageous price for video games these days. To me, the essential price would be still $39.95 for a game, or $50 if it's a special edition. And I know a lot of the people will be like, well, you're paying for this, you're paying for that, you're paying for all this stuff. Remember, the video game industry is right now, sorry about that, my dog. The movie industry is under the game industry. Okay, so the game industry makes a lot more money than the film industry. And it takes a lot more money to make a film than it does to make a video game. Video game, you hire crews and whatnot. They create all the sets in the computer. They do all the lighting. They hire the cast and whatnot, and that's about it. For a film, you have to pay for a lot. You have to pay for camera crews. You have to pay for all the grips. You have to pay for the dollies, the equipment, the actors, the actresses, of course, the editing crews, the CG effects people who would be already doing video games. All these things play. The publicity, all those things cost a lot more in film than it does for a video game. Now, granted, these video games have been treated like blockbuster films, meaning that a lot of money does go into the publicity to get these games out. The publicity campaign for Transformers Fall of Cybertron was excellent. The music, everything was a very, very moving. It felt like a very sad time. It was kind of like, this is pretty much, if this is a trilogy of video games, this is definitely the Empire Strikes Back of the Transformer video games. And I would really love to see what they're going to do with the third one. Of course, I haven't even finished this one yet, and I would love to see what, Oh, hey, is that a Constructicon? Yeah, there we go. Another combiner team, which was, I think, neglected in the, even in the first game. I don't remember even seeing the Constructicons. Constructicons were noted as the first combiner team for the Transformers. They were Decepticons, of course. There were construction vehicles. There were 6 of them, and let's see if I can name them without using the internet here. Let's see, we have, I'm probably going to get this wrong, Scrapper, Mixmaster, Long Haul, Hook, Scavenger, and Bone Crusher. Oh my god, I got all 6. They all combined to form Devastator. And it was awesome. I remember my friend bought a gift set, and it was so cool. The toys were so cool to look at. I found some knockoffs for like $10 over at a Big Lots, and it's a scaled down version of Devastator, but it is just so cool to look at. But unfortunately, the toys themselves, the robots themselves, the limbs are very flimsy, and I'm just very tempted to glue it all as one piece. It just feels like a puzzle, and it's like a puzzle you don't want to really take apart, because putting it back together again, it's kind of a bitch. So I'll definitely probably glue it together and just keep it that way. Looks like I'm at an upgrade station, and I really it's kind of cool to see this in the game. I don't know this. I don't think this goes to the this connects to the multiplayer. Also, just want to point out those little Matrix looking things right there. For all those who didn't know, that is actually the Marvel Comics version of the Matrix. It is much more blocky looking. The Matrix in the film was a lot more. It had much more of a sleek design, much more oval shaped than the Marvel Comics version, and that could just be because it's a lot easier to draw. And I believe the viewers or the fans like that version of the Matrix a lot better than the sleek oval design. I prefer the cartoon version. It was the version I saw first before the cartoon, or excuse me, before the comic book version. And there's the last one right there. No, that's the second one, I believe. Oh, no, there's Metroplex right there. How big that thing is. Just tackles it. It's amazing. Just imagine what Fortress Maximus would have looked like on this video game. I mean, Fortress Maximus is the tallest recorded Transformer in the toys and the video game, or anything. Fortress Maximus is the biggest out of all the Transformers. Now, here's a little tidbit for you guys. Here's a little thing for you guys. A little piece of trivia. Metroplex's original name was Fortress Maximus, but I guess they wanted to. I guess they didn't want to do that. I guess they wanted to just call him Metroplex. It feels, when I think Metroplex, though, I always feel like when I hear a word Metroplex, it always reminds me of a really large theater with a lot of screens. I know it's that means multiplex, but it's just the fact that the word plex is in there. Anyway, that's just me. For all those who know too much about, there's a little information for you about Fortress Maximus. Fortress Maximus is the first toy to actually incorporate a cartoon, one of the characters from the cartoon. Spike is actually the head of Cerebros, and in turn Cerebros becomes the head of Fortress Maximus. So that's pretty much 3 heads, or 2 heads to create 1 head. Is that crazy or what? In the episode Rebirth, whoa, there's not enough space for me to fight these guys. Never mind. I'm through bitching. That was cool. Yeah. See what I mean, though? It's just having this robot, this giant robot here. To me, this thing could destroy all the Decepticons at once. What was the point of them even going to Earth if they would actually survive this? It just doesn't make any sense. So maybe they touch up on this later in the game. I don't know. I'm still grinding through it with you guys. The weapons in this are very conventional. They look more like they use actual conventional bullets as opposed to lasers, in a way that kind of kills it for me. I love the fact that there were lasers used in Transformers, the cartoons. Like, see, look at all the lasers right there. That's awesome. You know? Okay. Those lasers kind of remind me of Trypticon. And I think Trypticon was in the last game. I have yet to play through the whole thing. It was a fun game, don't get me wrong, and a lot of people debate that War for Cybertron is actually better than Fall of Cybertron. I kind of like this one, though. Even though there's a lack of co-op, which is what really kind of kills it for everybody. Even though there's a lack of co-op, they did that because they wanted to have a much more intimate, personal experience between a single player and the world of Transformers. I think this also provided for more information to be put on the screen at once. With 2 players, you can only do less. And as you notice, there's a lot more outside activity going along in this one than there was the last one. So that alone kind of tells you, and that's pretty much the excuse I'm giving it, and it's a good excuse in my opinion. You know, I kind of wanted this in multiplayer. Could you imagine? I mean, this could have been a kill streak. And I know what you guys are thinking, ooh, put kill streaks in the game because, you know, don't do that because it's just like Call of Duty. But you have to understand, multiplayer games these days that have death matches and whatnot, they have to compete with that. They have to compete with COD. And a lot of COD sells the most every year. So let's just face that fact, guys. And if you want to compete with that, you've got to get the other players wanting to play your game. And the closer that you make it to COD, the more at home those players are going to feel, and the more they're going to want to transition from Call of Duty to your game. In this case, Transformers Fall of Cybertron. This has a perk system. This has an upgrade system. This has a weapons upgrade system and weapon systems. These were all introduced. I mean, they weren't solely introduced, but they were highly successful in COD 4, which is still, in my opinion, the best of the Call of Duty franchise. Think with all that in mind, Transformers, Activision went ahead and decided, hey, let's use this in our Transformers game. You know, and the cool thing about that is Call of Duty is a rated M for mature game. You know, and it is for good reason. There's a lot of realistic things there. A lot of things I don't think kids should be introduced to yet. I think they should be, once they're older and they have a better understanding of the horrors of warfare, the understanding of weapons, and that weapons in real life are truly, truly dangerous. And once they understand all those things, then something like Call of Duty would be okay. But at the same time, also there's a lot of grown-ups playing that game. A lot of grown-ups. And last thing they want an adult-style game. They want adult-style gameplay with people who are actually very smart and understand strategy and whatnot. And when you introduce a lot of kids to the game, it's more running and gunning to them. Transformers Fall of Cybertron provides that running and gunning style. And that's kind of the style I like. I like to turn my brain off and just do that kind of thing. And it's cool. It works for this. It totally works for this game. You can still do strategies and whatnot. You know, it still leaves room for that for the more adult players. But at heart, this is much more of a run and gun style game and hence the rated T for teen. You know, this game was created just solely for teens. You know, and of course for nostalgiaholics like myself. Short nod to Games 31 there. This other YouTube channel. Nostalgiaholic, yeah, check it out. It's yeah, I threw him up. It's all good. And anyway, I think we're coming to a close of this commentary right here, and Starscream's taking out. Starscream did the impossible. He pretty much did what. Ooh, here's Brawl from the Combaticons, and that looks like Onslaught. Anyway, thank you guys for watching, and talk to you all next time. Peace.